Hello and welcome. I'm Jaime Ocon, and here's what happened this week. Taiwan's top trade negotiator has described the first agreement under a U.S. Taiwan trade initiative as a milestone. The deal aims to streamline business relations between the two countries. James Chater reports.
U.S. and Taiwanese officials in Washington signing an agreement aimed at deepening trade and business ties. It's the first deal under the U.S. Taiwan initiative on 21st century trade. Launched last year, it looks to streamline customs and regulations procedures for firms from the two countries.
那今晚所签订的协定不但深具历史意义，也是新的开始。那相关任务还没有结束。
But absent from the deal, progress on tariff reductions, a key sticking point for Taiwanese firms in the US. Officials say the first agreement will lay the groundwork for those more complex issues.
不在于说真正的关税的降低是几码几码，而是在于就是说，当我们在这个谈判的过程当中，我们可以表达，就是说，这样的一个设计是不是我们能够承担，或者是说需不需要一个缓冲期？如果你没有，先去谈这个东西，而是你被决定的话，你完全没有这样的机会。
The deal is Taipei's latest effort to diversify away from its largest trading partner, China, which also claims Taiwan as part of its territory and threatens to take by force. Since 2016, the percentage of Taiwan's exports sent to the US has increased from 11 to 15%. But over the same period, the percentage of Taiwan's exports sent to China, including Hong Kong and Macau, has held steady at around 40%. Beijing denounced the deal signed with the US by Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, saying it sent a wrong signal.
民进党当局打着经贸合作的幌子，搞以美谋独，注定是竹篮打水一场空。
This first agreement is far from a full free trade deal between the US and Taiwan. But as more countries see economic security as key to their national security, this could be a small but important step. James Lin and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
A high-ranking official in Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party has resigned. That's after a staff member says the official didn't take her allegations of sexual harassment seriously. Stash Butler has more.
This is Xu Jiatian. She was the Deputy Secretary General in Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party. Now she's resigned after accusations she mishandled a case of sexual harassment. On Wednesday, a former DPP staffer said she was harassed in September by a party contractor. But when she went to Xu, she says Xu questioned her story and did not investigate. At the time, Xu was the party's head of women's affairs.
当性别平权，女人身上的枷锁还没被解开的那一天，妇女部就会誓死捍卫在我们现在这个位置。
Now, Xu is facing an investigation of her own, while several female DPP politicians sent messages of support to the victim.
很心疼这位受害的女性，也谢谢她的勇敢站出来。性骚扰零容忍，忽视性骚扰的话，绝对要改变。
But Taiwan's opposition Kuomintang, or KMT, is accusing the DPP's chair and presidential candidate Lai Ching-te of knowing about the case before Xu was promoted.
许家田从妇女部主任高升副秘书长，你到底知道多少案情？你还升他职位呢？
The DPP has ended its relationship with the contractor and promised to crack down on harassment.
赖清德主席表示，对于任何涉及性骚扰的事件，党中央绝对采取零容忍的态度。
The case involving such a high-level party official is embarrassing for the DPP. And with an election just months away, the party's candidate and chair will face questions about how it's managed. James Lin, Sam Hui and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
The ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, has announced the party's Democratic Alliance initiative. It's aimed at fostering cooperation with other parties. The DPP is teaming up with smaller parties and independent politicians ahead of the 2024 general elections. But not everyone within the party is open to the idea. Enoch Wu, a DPP politician, criticized the initiative. He says the party is sacrificing younger DPP members in favor of bigger names outside of the party. For more on the DPP's Democratic Alliance initiative, TaiwanPlus reporter Bing Wong spoke to Courtney Donovan Smith, a political commentator based in Taichung.
Can you tell us more about Lai Ching-te's Democratic Alliance plan?
They've chosen a largely young slate of candidates for these particularly tough districts. And fundamentally, I think what's going on here is two different things. One is some of the candidates, and this is the big controversial part, includes an ex-spokesperson for the New Power Party and an ex-member of the KMT, believe it or not. And but there's, I think, 3 independents, and they're not DPP party members, but the DPP is going to back them. So what I think they're trying to accomplish there with that is they think that there's a better chance that they'll win if they run these candidates there. And the reason for that is that there are certain districts and certain types of voter who just simply will never vote for a DPP candidate.
And why are younger voters flocking away from the DPP, and where are they going?
What's happened recently is that younger voters, by voters I mean under 40, have started abandoning the DPP in droves. They haven't been going to the KMT, they've been going to the Taiwan People's Party, the TPP. And so Lai is trying to reach out to voters under 40. Now, by picking these sunflower figures, I think that he's looking to win back voters from their late 20s to early 40s. The ones that have abandoned the DPP but voted for the DPP in the last 2 national election cycles. Those in their early 20s, I don't think this will help with them at all. They're too young to remember the Sunflower Movement.
So how come some DPP members are against the Democratic Alliance?
Well, okay, so some politicians, for example, most vocally Enoch Wu, who is the former head of the DPP's Taipei chapter, he came out and he was upset about the part where the party was backing the 3 independents. And he said that this was harmful for the future of the party. You should cross the river with the people in the same boat. In other words, the party should be running with party members and not backing independents so that you develop talent from within the party. And he says, and so Wu was suggesting that this takes away from the potential to develop more talent for the future.
The U.S. is urging Beijing to keep lines of military communication open. The Pentagon made this statement after a Chinese fighter jet came dangerously close to one of its radar planes. A dangerous maneuver. That's how the U.S. is describing an incident between a Chinese fighter jet and one of its military aircraft. The fighter jet made a sharp turn right in front of the U.S. plane, causing the U.S. aircraft to shake. The incident occurred on May 26th, while the U.S. plane was flying in international airspace somewhere over the South China Sea. U.S. officials have called out China for what they say is irresponsible behavior.
Well, it was unsafe and it was unprofessional. You heard the Pentagon speak to that, and you all saw the video for yourselves. You can see that they forced that RC-135 to go through the jet wash of the Chinese fighter, which just tells you how close it was, several hundred feet. That's dangerous.
Just a few days before the footage was released, nearby Taiwan reported that one of China's aircraft carriers, the Shandong, was operating nearby. China's foreign ministry says that the U.S. plane was flying in the area to conduct surveillance on the carrier.
美方长期频繁派舰机对中国进行抵近侦察，严重危害中国的国家主权安全。这种挑衅性的危险行动是引发海上安全问题的根源。美方应当立即停止此类危险的挑衅行动，中方将继续采取必要措施，坚定维护自身的主权安全。
This isn't the first time China and the U.S. have faced off in the South China Sea. Toward the end of last year, another Chinese fighter jet came within 6 meters of a U.S. reconnaissance plane. The U.S. often sails its own aircraft carrier in the South China Sea in what it calls freedom of navigation operations. China's military also conducts exercises in this area, and that's why Washington is urging Beijing to open lines of communication between the 2 superpowers.
We want to keep the lines of communication open. In fact, one of the reasons why we want to make sure we can get that military channel back open, is so that we have a way to talk to the Chinese about incidents like this one that could lead to miscalculation and misunderstanding and maybe getting somebody hurt.
China has recently rejected a U.S. invitation to meet on the sidelines of this weekend's Shangri-La Defense Summit in Singapore. Other nations in Asia are also concerned that the lack of communication between the world's two largest militaries increases the chance of miscalculation, possibly escalating incidents like this one into a broader conflict. Tensions between the U.S. and China are set to dominate a defense summit beginning on Friday in Singapore. The annual Shangri-La Defense Dialogue focuses on security issues in Asia. It'll run until Sunday. More than 600 officials from almost 50 countries will attend the meeting. China has declined to meet with the U.S. on the sidelines of the summit and refuses to open lines of communication. Military tensions between the two countries have increased in recent months. Earlier this week, the U.S. released footage of a Chinese fighter jet conducting a dangerous maneuver close to a U.S. surveillance plane. Well, for more on what to expect from the Shangri-La Security Summit, I spoke to Derek Grossman from the RAND Corporation.
Why is it significant for militaries in Asia to communicate with each other?
So I think it's very significant that all of the countries in the Indo-Pacific communicate with each other, but of course specifically the great powers, the U.S. and China. And it's unfortunate that at the Shangri-La dialogue, we found out a few days ago that the Chinese side refuses to meet with the U.S. side. And so I think this is a real missed opportunity, but we also shouldn't kid ourselves. Communication is only one component of dealing with the rising risks throughout the Indo-Pacific of potential armed conflict between the U.S. and China. We also need to focus on improving our deterrence capabilities against China, specifically within the Taiwan Strait, to deter China from ever trying to attack Taiwan. That's what really matters.
China has rebuffed a U.S. request to meet on the sidelines of the Shangri-La dialogue. Why does China keep declining these requests?
Well, so their official line on it is that we still have sanctions on the Chinese defense minister, and therefore, why would they meet with the U.S. side until the U.S. decides to undo the sanctions? I think there's more to the story. I think that's part of it. But I think if you kind of look at the broader context of U.S.-China relations, there's been enormous tensions in the last few years, and the most recent of which was the spy balloon incident that in February that flew over the continental United States, and ultimately the U.S. military shot it down. I think the Chinese were very unhappy with how that went. I also think that when you look at the Biden administration's last couple of years in terms of engaging in extreme competition against China, whether it's cutting China out of supply chains or bolstering Taiwan's defensive capabilities, the Quad, right? Australia, Japan, India, and the U.S., that ongoing dialogue, which clearly revolves around dealing with China, and there's many other things too.
Meanwhile, the U.S., the Philippines, and Japan are carrying out their first ever joint Coast Guard exercises. The drills will last until June 7th, taking place off the Bataan province of the Philippines. The exercises come amid heightened tensions in the South China Sea. China has increased its military presence in the disputed waters, with Manila accusing it of aggressive actions, including the alleged use of a military-grade laser. The U.S. says the joint drills are meant to maintain international order.
We're eager to further integrate with both the Philippines Coast Guard and the Japan Coast Guard this week and in the future. Together, our Coast Guards will reinforce and model international rules and norms at sea in order to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific.
Thank you for watching. Here's what happened. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave with the images of animals at the Sumida Aquarium in Tokyo. I'm Jaime Ocon. Take care and see you next week.